Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another live. I am so excited to be hanging out and chatting with you today. If you're new here, hi, my name is Laken, and I go live every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern to answer any questions that you have about goals, planning, life, whatever it is that you want to chat about. And I'm so excited. If you are here live, thank you so much for joining me. And if you're catching the replay, I appreciate you so much. Let's kick it off with our first question that we always start with, which is, what are you drinking? So if you're here live, drop it in the live chat. What is it that you're drinking while we're hanging out today? And if you are part of the replay fam, let us know in the comments what it is that you are drinking while you are catching the replay. I have a cup of tea, one of my quote mugs that I love. It's still a little bit hot. Like, I literally just made it, so it's still a little bit hot. I'm not quite sure I'm ready to sip on it yet. You might be able to actually see the steam. So I think I'm going to give that a second. I also have my water nearby. Feeling a little behind on water lately. All right, I don't see any comments yet. I think, oh, there they are. Coffee and water, Diet Coke, coffee and water, green tea with honey. Yum. I love it. Lots of water, lots of tea. Again, I think I mentioned this last week. I'm trying to limit myself a little bit on the caffeine, trying to get a little bit. Brianna, iodine supplements with electrolytes. That sounds not delicious, but likely very beneficial for your system. So fun. Yeah. Continue to let us know what it is that you are drinking while we're hanging out today. If you don't have anything, or if you're eating lunch, because I know a lot of you, this is your lunch break, which is originally how this started. I tried to dig up the other day, actually, like the first official date. And I think I started them on Instagram and did not save them. So I cannot find the first one, but I'm pretty sure it was March of 2020, but could not actually find it. The first one I did on YouTube was May of 2020. So still trying to find it. But it started as my lunch break when I was working from home in March of 2020. And it was just a nice way to break up the day. Eventually we moved it to the evening time when a lot of people started going back into the office. And then I moved it back to daytime because that is what works best for me now that I am working for myself full time. So let's jump into it. What questions do you have? What is on your mind? Feel free to ask whatever questions you have in the chat. If you have a topic that you want to talk about and you don't know how to phrase it as a question, you can put topic and put whatever it is the topic is. And then if you are watching the replay and you have a question, you're not able to make it live, you can either submit your question on Mondays. I do a Q&A box on Instagram. You can put your question there, or you could just put your question in the comment of this video and I will answer it on next week's video. I am still very behind on YouTube comments, y'all. Very behind. That's like the one thing I actually feel like I'm not caught up on yet after being gone for so long is comments on YouTube. Instagram, I feel good about. Everything on Patreon, I feel good about. Emails, I feel good about. Household, laundry, those things I feel good about. But YouTube comments, man, I'm struggling. All right. Oh, I love kicking us off with this question. What is everyone's win from this last week? Share if you are here live, share it in the chat. And if you're watching the replay and you want to share your win with us as well, share with what is your major win. It doesn't even have to be major. It can be minor. Any win that you have from this last week. And yours, I know for sure, is your century ride, which is mine as well. This morning we did our century rides together. Never gotten so many high fives on my Peloton in my entire life. It was so fun. It was so fun. I thank you so much for picking that ride and for inviting other people to be along for it. I loved it. It was awesome. Oh, I love this, Tina. Tackling a drawer or a shelf to clean while we chat. That is your routine with Laken. I love it. That's so awesome. All right. Oh, I see a question. How to manage a YouTube channel and a full-time retail job with a shifting schedule? Great question. Obviously, I 100% have managed a YouTube channel while having a full-time job. My corporate job was very, very rigid, 9 to 5 at the same time every day, every week. But there are still similarities in terms of how to manage that YouTube channel. I'm going to give you a couple things here. Number one, do not feel like you have to do multiple videos a week. It is very overwhelming when you see other creators putting out tons and tons of content. Do what works for you. And if that's one video a week, it's one video a week. If that's a video every other week, it's a video every other week. It does, like, just because you see other people putting out lots and lots of content don't feel like you have to keep up with them and do that same level of content. So number one is figure out what kind of cadence works well for you in terms of an uploading schedule and don't feel guilty about it. Number two is, if you can, get ahead on scheduling. That way, and like filming and uploading, that way when your schedule does change or you're tired and you don't want to film a video, you have a video ready to go. I try to do pretty much every video now a month in advance. That way it is done and I'm not like stressed about getting a video filmed and uploaded and ready to go. So to the best of your abilities, get that video done further in advance and not, like, be ahead of schedule so you never feel like worried about that pressure. And then if you have to miss a week, you miss a week. Like, it is really, especially if it is your side thing that you are posting and you are providing free content to people. If you do not have the time or capacity to do it one week, that's okay. And I wouldn't worry about it. All the wins that are coming in. I finished a scrapbook that was supposed to be a Christmas present. Hannah, you got it done. Like, you did it. Totally fine. Going full-time with 2 businesses. Congrats, Kristen. That's amazing. I'm on your 8th book, Maggie. That is so awesome. Last year, I only read like 3. Clearly, that goal is going well. Joanna, clean the enormous pile of cardboard from your garage. We also just got rid of a lot of boxes. And by we, I mean Sam got rid of them yesterday, and that was really awesome. Brianna, my husband went to the office yesterday, and I deep cleaned the kitchen. And oh my gosh, you did a lot of things yesterday. That sounds like a really, really awesome day. Kelsey, thank you for sharing your name. I always forget to mention this, but if your handle on YouTube is not the same as your first name or whatever name you like to be called, please share it so I'm able to address you by your name. Getting the yard cleaned up. The grass is growing fast. That's awesome. That's a good thing, right? Mackenzie, taking time for yourself over the weekend without your kiddo and husband. Love that. We all need that me time. Even if you are an extrovert, that alone time, that me time is really, really important. Love it. Thank you for all sharing all of your wins. I love that. I love kicking it off with that question. It's always so fun. All right. I think I'm caught up on comments. What else is on your mind? What else do you want to chat through, or are you struggling with? It doesn't have to be a negative question. It can also be a positive question. But I know that sometimes it can be tough to just ask a question with something that you are having trouble with. Struggling with the fear of failure. We'll find out the results of your 3rd CPA exam in a month and studying for the next one, but finding motivation hard. You're so close and I just want to be done. Okay, so first off, Andrea, you are so close. Like, you are so close. And here's the thing about what you're struggling with right now in terms of fear of failure. It's already done. You already took the test. You're waiting for those results. There's nothing you can do to change it, right? Those results are going to be what they're going to be in a month, and that's what it's going to be. One of the things that I always try to think about when fear of failure is prominent is, what does failure look like? And what would I do if that happened? Like, what would I do if that were the case, right? In your case, in some situations, failure is more of a worst case scenario thought that people are like really blowing up in their heads. And it's the probability of it actually happening is probably slim to none, or at least not as high as the not failure. In this case, because you're talking about an exam, a failure is actually a thing, right? You could actually, quote unquote, fail that exam. But if that is the case, and I obviously have no idea in terms of what the probability of that is, what would you do? What would happen, right? So you're studying for the next one right now, but your motivation is like, if you have to go back and redo the 3rd one because you ended up not passing in this last chance. If you had to do that, right, you would pivot and you would study for the 3rd one. You would know what you need to work on, and then you would pass it the next time. And you know what you need to do, right? Is that what you want to have happen? No, that's not the scenario you want to have happen. But when you play out this failure scenario in your head, most of the time we realize, okay, it's not that bad. Like, it sucks. It's not what I want, but I would survive and I would be able to figure it out and move forward. It doesn't mean that you can't be upset and can't have feelings about it, but the actual practicality of what you would need to do if that were the scenario is totally doable. So just keep moving, small steps, study in small chunks, one step at a time, and keep reminding yourself that you are almost there. You've done 2 already. You have 2 more to go, maybe only 1 more to go, and then you will be done. Jordan, I'm in the home stretch of planning our wedding. What are small things that you overlooked or almost overlooked? The dress hanger is something that I came to me in a dream and I ordered as soon as I woke up. The things that like went wrong at our wedding are, one was very specific to a Jewish wedding, which I'm pretty sure is not your scenario. And then one was our late night snack. Sam forgetting to give the phone number to the day of coordinator. So I think for me, it's if you are having a day of coordinator, making sure that every single vendor that you have, right? Especially if you had your fiance help with some things, every single vendor has your day of coordinator's contact information, right? Give that phone number away. And, or in retrospect, I wish I'd also maybe forwarded our phones to her phone so that when they were calling Sam's phone, it would have gone to her. And then, I mean, there'll be things that go wrong. And I know everybody told me this, and it's not one of those things that you will be able to fully appreciate until it is that time that things will go wrong and it will be fine. Jessica, do you recommend digital or paper running task lists? I've been using Google Tasks for a year now, but find it is way too easy for me to ignore, forget about. So this is the kind of question where I feel like recommend is a really strong word because everything is going to be different for every person. What works best for you might not be the thing that works best for me. It might not be the thing that works best for somebody else. So it is going to be the scenario. We're going to have to figure out what works best for you and work on that, whether that is something I would do or not. But let me give you some things to think about in terms of figuring out if it is a good fit for you. So the first one is, you don't want to forget about it, right? Having a running task list is one of those things. It's really good to get it out of your head, but then if you're not actually doing anything with those tasks, it's not going to happen. So for me, if there's I don't have a running task list I do for business, but for personal life, I do not, because everything is either something that goes on my planner for today or it goes in my Google Cal to get to happen another time. Like there is no running list because otherwise, it doesn't happen and it would get forgotten. So I personally just don't have a running task list because it's not something that is ever going to get done if I did it that way. I think the other thing to think about is it's okay to change your mind, right? So if something worked for you for a while, but now you seem to be forgetting about checking in with that Google task, then maybe you need to try doing it on paper for a little bit. Or is it the Google task list works for you, but you need to figure out a time for you to check in with that and transfer it over to your paper planner? Like I was telling somebody that the other day, a recommendation for them for something else was maybe you just need to set a reminder to check in with that list another time. And that could be another way to avoid forgetting about it, but not changing up your system completely, if that makes sense. Kristen, what is your opinion on digital planning? Been bouncing back and forth between analog and digital. So I think the first caveat or like clarification is the difference between digital planning in terms of I have an iPad and I've got like a digital version of a planner, but I'm still writing in it, and like a Google Calendar, because I think there is something so beneficial to actually writing out plans and things that you have going on. And so if you are still doing it in that format, but it's digital, I think I think you still get that benefit, but you are saving paper, you're likely saving money, and it's more portable in that format than if you had a paper planner, but you're still getting the benefits of writing it down. If it is completely like Google Cal, and don't get me wrong, there are people that survive completely on Google Cal. My husband is one of them. But if I just really think and he forgets things, right? I think that there are things that are so beneficial about actually writing. So I think if you are still doing some form of long form writing when it comes to digital planning, I think it can still be really beneficial. Also, same thing, like in terms of the tip I gave with Jessica. Number one, you're allowed to change your mind at any time, right? Could be different seasons of life, different times of the month where one is more beneficial for you than the other. You're allowed to change your mind and switch back and forth based on whatever is working for you in that moment. And it's okay if that changes. Here's another tip for that CPA exam question. Where you're at, try to change your mindset, thinking it'll be worse to go back forwards than forwards at this point. Yeah, totally. Like you're getting there. You're working on it. Ooh, Brianna, this is a good question. Struggling with the balance of sitting at the computer, working on your business, and get the steps and do the homemaking. When I'm killing at one, the other one suffers. So I heard a really good analogy from Amber from Damask Love at a conference once talking about balance and the fact that most of the time we think balance needs to be 50-50. And it is never going to be 50-50. Like it just never is. And to envision it like a teeter-totter. And you're always going to be kind of maybe leaning a little bit this way, maybe leaning a little bit this way, right? If you've got one end of you, your business you on the other hand, and like the homemaking you on the other end, right? It's always going to be teetering a little bit one way or the other. And the goal is just for that day, that week, that month, which way does it maybe teeter a little bit more? It's likely never going to be 50-50 every day, but just making sure that it's not 100-0, because once that teeter-totter hits the ground, so much harder to get it back in the air. So not letting it to be 100-0. So even if you're only doing 30 minutes of one or the other that day, so that the balance is still greater than 100-0, that's the goal. It's likely never just going to be 50-50. But so just thinking about when you are giving it these words, I'm killing at one and suffering at the other, what does that look like, or what does that mean? Because if you spend 90% of your day on your business and only 10% of the day doing other things that day, that doesn't mean it's suffering. That just means that day, that's the balance. And then the next day, it might be the other way around. Oh my goodness. Trying to figure out if I should continue in my plum paper vertical priorities until June or jump into your undated Moxie Life that you got during the sale. So I think it is very hard to be distracted by the new shiny planners, especially when you bought one and now you have it in your hands and it's beautiful and it smells good and that paper is amazing. I think if the plum paper vertical is working for you, keep using it. And then when it's done, then switch over to the Moxie Life and give that a try. If you don't start the Moxie Life till July, there is still plenty of time for you to see if that works for you before you would need to purchase a 2023 Moxie Life. I can't believe I just said those words out loud. If that's what you were kind of thinking about. But if you were already kind of questioning if the plum paper was working for you, then maybe you just try it out. You try out the undated and see how it goes. I know that's not necessarily the answer you wanted, but hopefully that helps you think about it a little bit. Nadine just stopped in to say hi. Congrats on your wedding and happy birthday. Thank you. I appreciate it. My birthday's in 2 days, if y'all didn't know. Mackenzie, this is a really great question. How do you stay with your March goals when you're really excited for Q2 and April goals? I want to jump in, but there's still so many days of March left. So this question applies all the months, right? This question always applies when we are at the end of a month into a new month. Now, I am not a great example of this question this month because of my birthday. I actually am already kind of like, I'm done with March and I'm ready to start I'm like on Monday of next week, gonna like start fresh with my April goals, even though it's technically still March. But that's also because of where my birthday falls. If that wasn't the case, I usually am much better about finishing the month strong. What I would encourage you to do is, whether or not you've already set your April goals, right? You look at your March goals and be like, okay, these are the things I'm going to finish between now and the end of the month. What are those things? What are those things that you are going to make sure in the next 7 days get checked off? For me, that's only one of my March goals, like one of them, and then my daily goal. Those are the only things that I'm going to make sure I'm going to get to. Everything else, I've actually either already moved to April or let go of. So I'm going to stay focused. I'm going to stay strong on those. And then I know it'll be here before we know it, right? April 1st will be here. Or if you're going to start on some of your things next Monday, like it will be here before you know it and you will be able to start. This is also something that gets easier with time to stay focused on the end of the month. This is also one of the reasons why I always encourage us to share our goal end state in the Patreon Facebook group, because and myself included, and I don't always do it and I need to be better about it, is like continuing to check in with my March power sheets, even though I've already like set up my April ones, and share that with the community so that it's like holding me accountable to keep checking it off. Like the fact that I didn't do PT yesterday, right? Actually putting the dot that I didn't do it and knowing that I'm going to share my March power sheets, the finished version of them, next week in the Patreon Facebook group. Amy, great question. I need to do all my morning routine things, but I need my actual morning time to be simpler right now. Any tips for fitting in things without a 3-hour morning routine? So I was just talking to somebody one-on-one the other day about need versus want. It is so often we feel like we need to do all these things, right? And while they provide benefits to us, definitely those are examples of things that 100% provide benefit. Most of the time, those things are not need, right? The only parts of my morning routine that are things that I actually need to do are like take my vitamins and feed Charlie, right? Everything else in reality is a want. It's just something that I want to do. And so if it is a time where I need to simplify things, then I'm going to have to cut things out. And it sounds like for you, and so I don't know if you say when you need your morning time to be simpler, if you mean that you need less things or you need less time. So I would decide which one of those you're going to go after first. Are you trying to shorten the time or are you trying to shorten the steps? And when that is the scenario, then it's going to be cutting either the time that you're doing things, right? So maybe you still work out every day, but maybe instead of it being a 45-minute workout, it's a 15-minute workout. There you go. You just shaved off 30 minutes. Or if you need less things, then I would start with the adding. So I would say, okay, here's the list of things that I want to be doing, right? These are things you want to include. What's the most important one? All right, let me move that one over. How long does that take me? What's the next most important one? Move that over. And then until you get to, if you want it to be at 5 things and that's it, then once you're there, then you start with that. You can always swap things out if you want to. You can always add more, cut more if it doesn't feel right once you start working on it. But I think some of it is that mindset of like the things that we actually need to be doing and the things that we want to be doing and prioritizing between what if you need a simpler morning routine more than you necessarily need to journal every day. I'm assuming you figured out your birthday party plans by now if you feel comfortable sharing. So I will share part of it. So we are, I'm having everybody over to my apartment for like a pre-party for the people who aren't comfortable going out into bars or want something earlier in the night. And then we are going out to a bar afterwards. I'm not going to share what that is until after we go. But I have part 1 and part 2. Some people are just doing part 1. Some people, actually, I don't think there's really anybody doing just part 2. But then I have other people who are coming and then will come to the bar as well. I'm excited. I'm excited to just hang out with friends and have people over. Our new apartment isn't necessarily the best setup for, what am I trying to say? Like having a bunch of people here. Like it is perfect for us to like live our everyday lives, but from like a hosting standpoint, it's not a great hosting apartment. So I'm a little bit nervous about how that's going to work. Cause we've lived here a year and haven't had more than like one couple over at a time, or like I had 3 girlfriends. Like we haven't had any big groups. And so I don't really know what it's going to be like, but I'm excited. Amanda, thank you for sharing your wins. You've already done your 2 days of workouts this week, and it feels great to know that you can do it if you want, but you don't have the guilt if you choose not to. Starting small with that 2 per week goal. I'd love to see a video on how to prepare for daylight savings and how to best adjust your morning routine. I struggle with this every year. So I would never actually do a full video on this. And here's the first reason. Number 1, for whatever reason, y'all, I don't actually feel as impacted by daylight savings as it feels like the whole world is. I already get up before the sun comes up. So when it changes, it's still dark in here. Like it doesn't impact me as much as it feels like it needs to, or feels like it would. If anything, the fall one frustrates me more because there is a point where like the sun was up and then now it's not up in the morning. But in the spring, it doesn't really bother me as much as I think it's going to. This year in particular, it was also the night of our wedding. So I was just exhausted on Sunday anyways. And I'm assuming mostly wedding related and not daylight savings related. I also think that this really depends on where you live in the world, right? So I live on the very eastern edge of a time zone. And so that impacts how that when the sun is up and all of those things. I'm also a super morning person, but I'm also used to getting up in the dark. Like that doesn't bother me. So it kind of depends on who you are and where you live on whether it is something that really impacts you in, in the most part. The other thing is I also like to look at it as like I'm changing time zones, right? So if you've ever heard when you're traveling, it takes a 1 hour per day to get adjusted to the time zone. And so if that's kind of the same reasoning with daylight savings, think that like that first day, that first Monday is probably going to be a little bit tough, but then by Tuesday, like it should be a little bit easier. And then you get back to it just like you would as if you were like traveling somewhere else. So I don't know if any of those thoughts really help. There might be somebody with maybe a more of a scientific background than I have that has a whole video on maybe how to better prepare for this. But for me, it's honestly, the more annoying part is like having to change all the, like, they're still digital. I was going to say the analog clocks in my house, but like the digital, it's still the microwave and the oven, but like I have to physically change those. Otherwise, like I just don't even really notice it, to be honest. Sorry. I know that's probably not the answer that really helps. Lisa, I'm so excited that you're going to look at your car again. We just talked about her car last night on the Patreon Q&A. Now that you have the wedding done, what are you looking forward to next? Well, right now it's just my birthday in 2 days. Really looking forward to that and being able to celebrate with some people. Someone's trying to call me right now. Nope, not happening. Really excited about my birthday. And then dance, just really like being able to focus on dance, have the mental capacity to really focus and nail down the choreography. And the show is in about a month. So I'm really looking forward to that. I know that somebody did ask me this and I didn't know the answer. I do now. There is going to be no live stream this year because we are at a full capacity, a full house. Because part of the live stream was like it took up seats in the auditorium to set up those cameras. So there is not going to be a live stream version this year. They will end up on YouTube eventually, like they did this year, but there will not be a live version that you can watch, which is a bummer. But if you live in New York or around New York and you want to come to the show in person, there are still tickets left if you want to come see it. Oh no, you got destroyed by daylight savings 10 times more than any other year. Interesting. I wonder, honestly, I think there is something to be said where you live in the country, what kind of morning or evening person you are, all of those things, what you did the night of daylight savings, like if you were at a wedding, like I think it, I don't know. Like I slept 12 hours that Sunday night, but I think that was more wedding exhaustion than daylight savings. All right. I think I'm all caught up on comments, questions. Time flies. Now it's not even 30 minutes. I don't even know. I was just talking for 30 minutes and all of a sudden I look down and it's like 1:30. Okay. Oh, Amy, I'm struggling with daylight savings too. I've never gone more than a couple of days in the past. I think it might have to do with how tired I was going into it. Yeah, that's definitely a possibility. If you were more exhausted going into that weekend, right? Maybe it's, if you struggle with daylight savings, maybe it's making sure that like Friday night and Saturday are super restful days for you, right? You don't have anything scheduled those days and you take the time to rest going into it. And that will help you be able to readjust on Monday. Oh, Joanna, I know you missed the Patreon goal setting session because our clocks changed and yours haven't yet. That's honestly one of the, like, I know there's all these petitions right now to keep daylight safe. I can't even remember. Are we in it? Are we out of it? Like to keep it the way that it is and not change it. I don't really have an opinion one way or the other, to be honest with you. But what is frustrating are things like this, when other countries have not changed it yet and we have changed, and then you're used to our time difference, right? I say the call's at 1 p.m. Eastern. You're used to being like, oh, that's 5 hours. And then all of a sudden it's 4 hours or 6 hours and then like missing it. I know. It's such a bummer. But the replay is up. Hopefully you either have been able to watch the replay or have scheduled time to watch the replay. Same thing goes for anybody. If you are not a member of the Patreon community and you are like, I don't know what to do about my quarterly goals. I don't know what to do about my annual goal refresh. I'm feeling a little bit lost as we go into a new quarter. Highly recommend signing up for Patreon and watching the replay of the quarterly goal session. We talk all about that. We talk about going through our annual goals, what to think about when you're checking in with them. We talk about setting quarterly goals, thinking about quarterly refreshes, and then setting up for April. So The replay is up. It is a 2-hour session. If you cannot set aside 2 hours, do it in those 3 chunks, right? Do the annual goals and then the quarterly goals and then the April setup, right? Split it up into 3 chunks. If you can't find 2 hours to watch the whole thing, that's the beauty of it being a replay, is that you're able to do it in those little chunks. But highly recommend, if you feel like you're struggling with that, to sign up and work through that. It's workshop style, where I like, it's teaching and then pause, go do it, come back, teaching, go do it, etc. MJ, I'm moving in 2.5 years. Oh my gosh. That is a long ways away, but also like a set knowledge a long ways away. Need to sell a house and buy a new house or build something. There's so many uncertain things and possible scenarios. Any tips to keep track of this long-term mess? So for long-term things like this, especially where there are so many unknowns, what I would do is keep a list of, here's what I know now. Here is what I need to know. And here's when I might know those things, and set a regular cadence for yourself to check in with your list, update the pieces that you do know, update the things that you have learned, right? And who could you reach out to? And then you can start adding in here's what you need to do, right? Right now, there's probably not a whole lot you need to do besides like gathering some of that information. And then I would also what are these things that are up in the air, are within your control and decisions you can make, and then just make that decision and go with it. Or what are these things that you're waiting on other people? That probably also throws a bit of a wrinkle into it. But when it's something so long-term, I just want to get all the things out of my head that I do know and the things I don't know, and then check in with it regularly and see what I can get updated. Did I answer what I was reading? No, nobody asked me that yet, Lisa. So fiction, I'm still working on the Throne of Glass. I don't know why I would always want to say something different. Series. I think I'm on book 4, but I think I literally started book 4 like the couple days before the wedding. And I think I probably need to rewind and start fresh of book 4. Nonfiction, it is in my backpack, which is unreachable. I am reading Woman Code, which was actually recommended by Brianna from Diva and the Divine. Yeah, that's what I'm reading. Have you tried the meal deliveries that you mentioned? Yeah, I did. We got Green Chef. I'm glad that I did it. I'm glad that we had a meal here ready to go instead of us having to go grocery shopping. But even though I picked the fast meals, it was still way more cooking than I wanted to do when we got back. I would have rather gone grocery shopping to have faster meals, or just budgeted for takeout. There was not the right answer for that scenario. The meal delivery service was great. I think with all of these meal delivery services, there is still not one that I feel like is fast enough for me in the kitchen. They're all still a pretty good amount of work. And they're pricey. They just are for what we typically spend on a meal at home. If we're going to spend that on a serving, I would rather order takeout. And I know it's not as healthy as eating at home, but I think ultimately meal delivery services are not for us. And I've said this before, but for cooking and meal planning and being in the kitchen, right? It's going to be really hard to get fast, inexpensive, 100% healthy. It's hard to find all of those things, and likely you're going to have to sacrifice on at least one, if not more. And over the course of a week, right? You might find one magic recipe that hits all of those, but one recipe that you have might be your fastest recipe, but it is a little bit less healthy. One recipe might be your least expensive recipe, but it might take you a little bit longer to cook, right? Just having it balanced throughout the week. What are your priorities about cooking and meal planning? And for us, I just think that the meal delivery meals do not fit with our priorities right now. Nothing against the service itself. It's just the concept for us. Yeah. This sounds like a good plan on daylight savings. Setting your alarm back a little bit a couple weeks before and getting on bed earlier, then you won't feel like it's so abrupt. Yeah, absolutely. Which is kind of what they say to do if you are traveling internationally, is to a week or so before start inching your way, acting as if you are in that time zone. That will help you adjust. So kind of almost the same thing. But yeah, maybe we won't stop not stop going back and forth. Who knows? I didn't even know that was like a possibility till last week that people started talking about as an option. So yeah, I know there's a lot of mixed feelings on daylight savings. And again, I don't know. I actually don't know which way is which. Like, are we in it or are we out of it? Like, I never know. And I did realize the wedding was before. I didn't realize it was that weekend until after somebody else told me. I was like, I'm sorry. But can't go back now. Made the decision on the date. Actually, didn't have that many options, truthfully. Things were already so booked up. Anybody else feel like they're just super swamped with weddings this year? This is like the biggest wedding year in a very long time. Yeah, Arizona doesn't do daylight savings. And yeah, states can opt out. I think there's somebody, there's another state or something that has no daylight savings. You think it's my age, you have no weddings. I don't know, but like maybe it is because your kids aren't old enough for it to be, because my mom also has a lot of weddings, but it's her kids' friends. So I think that's it. I think you don't have your kids aren't having friends. Oh, that's what it is. A portion of Indiana also doesn't do it. That's what it is. Okay. Crystal, just got to join as the meeting I'm in ended early. Yay. Do you have a specific method you keep track of your go-to recipes? I just started tracking my recipes it's called Plan to Eat. It's an online tool. It is not free. I do pay for it, but I love it. It not only does it track my recipes, but it lets me meal plan as well, and it creates my grocery list for me. I talked about it more in my quarterly favorites video that went up a few weeks ago. Hawaii doesn't either. Yeah. Oh my gosh, Rachel, your best man has 9 weddings this year. I mean, we have 5 more besides our own. So it'll end up being 6 total. And we had 6 last year also. But of the 6 we had last year, 3 were New York and 2 were Baltimore. So it didn't feel like it was all that much in terms of travel. The 5 we have this year are Austin, Ireland, Baltimore, Houston, Chicago. So it's like a lot of travel. A lot of places we gotta go. Plan to Eat is cheap too. It is, yeah, it's not super expensive. It's like $30 for the whole year and well worth it. I agree. I think it's totally worth it. It has saved me so much time. Like as a place to store my recipes, and as a place to have it create my grocery list, it has saved me so much time. Nicole, sorry I'm late. I had my IVF transfer today. Oh my gosh, that's huge. Congratulations. Sending you all of the good vibes, that everything goes smoothly and you get good news soon. Oh my gosh, that's so exciting. My twin brothers are IVF. And so I remember that moment. I mean, obviously it wasn't me, it was my stepmom, but like, I get it. That's so exciting. Do you have to have a YouTube to build a Patreon group? No, you definitely do not. I know it seems that way. Like it seems like everybody who has a YouTube then has a Patreon. It is helpful to have some sort of community to then have like that are interested and then signing up for your Patreon, right? Because Patreon, it's not like, I mean, it is like Etsy in the sense that you could just like go search if you wanted to, but a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people don't just like go to Patreon and search for different things. It is, and I totally just lost my train of thought. It is more of a like, I need to promote my Patreon and remind people and tell people about it. And so the fact that I have a YouTube channel as a platform to do that is helpful. But if you have that community, it's built somewhere else that's not YouTube, right? If it is on Instagram, if it is on Twitter, if it is an email list, if it is just like an in-person thing, right? It doesn't have to be YouTube to then transfer over to Patreon. I hope that answered your question. I mean, the answer is no, you don't. Oh, MJ, how are the Thailand plans coming along? I lived in the south of Thailand for a year. That is amazing. We have none. nothing. There is no plans. I don't know how people plan a wedding and a honeymoon at the same time. Just the same thing since probably the last time we talked about this. I have we have the flights in and out of the country from New York, like round trip flights, and that is all. We have no other plans for within the country, hotels, flights, any of those things. But we want to. We will get there. We will get there. Yeah, Crystal, it was getting Plan to Eat was the best recipe organization I ever discovered. It was really hard for me to figure it out. I tried all kinds of different things, and now I finally feel like I have a system that works for me. Yeah, I wish I had signed up years ago, truthfully, but it's fine. I found it, and it's great. Oh my goodness. Oh, Amy, our honeymoon was a quarantine in our home. It was 2020. I mean, our whole engagement felt like was a quarantine in our home. It finally feels like we're getting back to where things were before. But I know it's hard. It's hard. All right. Although I mean, we're calling it our honeymoon, truthfully, but I don't know how much different it's going to be as if we were just like traveling to for a trip, like taking an international trip for the year. Am I still doing nonfiction reading notes somewhere? No, right now that's just something I put on hold until I have time to figure it out. No, for now, I just realized that getting nonfiction books from the library and like putting sticky notes in them does not work for me. And I really need to just own my nonfiction books and be able to highlight and take notes and write in them. But the actual act of like going back through those highlights and transferring that info somewhere, it's just, I'm not bothering with it right now. Crystal, this is a funny question. Do you have a bunch of decorations or supplies left over from your wedding that you don't know what to do with? Saw your Instagram post about repurposing koozies. So, not really, truthfully, because the venue we picked, which I'm so excited that I can finally brag about them, has all the like decor. Like all the decor in the reception space and all that stuff was all theirs. And so they just took it all back. And I didn't have to get any of that and deal with any of that. There were a handful of things that were just ours, that like I got like picture frames that I got from Salvation Army and Goodwill that I put like the photos of the people who weren't able to be there with us because they are no longer with us. Like those I had to purchase. And my mom, one of my mom's friends who was at the wedding, her son is getting married later this year. So we basically gave everything to her. Anything that was like not the venues or not custom, we passed on to her for her son. And then anything there, we didn't really have that much custom that we had left over. The koozies are really the one big thing. And I think the reason we ended up with so many koozies is because they kept them behind the bar and only gave them to people that got beer instead of having like the basket next to the bar so that people who didn't drink beer at the wedding but would want a custom koozie could have taken them home. Because I had like the number of koozies for the right number of people. And I'm sure some people wouldn't have taken them, but we ended up with a ton of extra koozies. Like both of my parents took like 20 home to like have at their house. My mom took hers home to like take to the pool all summer, and my dad has his for the beach house. And then we, again, I think we have like 30 that if people at the party on Friday want to take home, they can totally take them home. I want to keep a couple, but like that's it. So really not as much as I kind of thought we would. Mackenzie, Disney honeymoons take care of themselves might be unoriginal, but it's the best vacation I ever had. That sounds amazing. I mean, if I hadn't done Disney for my bachelorette, I probably would have tried to convince him to do it for like a mini moon. But yeah, I'm sure it was amazing. And I'm sure the pictures are incredible. Oh, thank you, Brandy. I'm glad that you were able to hop in and share your congrats. I appreciate it so much. It's still, again, sometimes some days it doesn't feel like anything has changed, right? It feels like exactly the same as it was before. And then some days it's like, oh yeah, this happened and we did this thing. And it like, I don't know. But I'm also glad that I'm like no longer worrying about planning a wedding. I'm just glad that that part of it is over, you guys. So glad. Oh, Kristen, you had a Disney honeymoon as well. One of the weddings we went to last year did a Disney honeymoon, and their pictures looked so cute. And it looked like so much fun. I love that. Sam said the only way he would get me to go back, I think I've told you all this before. I haven't seen any of the Star Wars movies, okay? Please don't unfollow or unsubscribe. But that if I watch all the Star Wars movies, then he would go back to Disney with me. You could give away the koozies to your followers. I don't have that many. I don't have that many. I have like, again, I think I have like 30. Have you experienced the first time actually introducing yourself with your new name? No. The only thing we've experienced so far is like introducing as husband, wife. You know, this is my husband, this is my wife. I did get an email yesterday confirming that I wanted my new name in the program for the dance show in April. And so that was fun to respond to and be like, yes, I would like it to say Lakenstrom in the program. So that was cool. Are you going to save your wedding planning spreadsheet as a souvenir? So, I mean, it's a Google spreadsheet, so I could like save it, like leave it on Google and not actually delete it. I probably will save it. Well, I guess not. I was gonna say I would save it to like share it with my sister when she is gonna need it eventually, but she's also graduating from college this year and going into the wedding planning industry. So she probably will have a much better spreadsheet than I created. I mean, it got messy at the end of it, right? Like it was really pretty. Like I'm not going to go back in there and like finalize the budget numbers. Like I just don't even care at this point. So I'm not even like worried about that kind of stuff, but it got messy at the end. And then right now I have all the tabs hidden except the thank you notes. So I don't have to look at all the tabs. I just don't want to deal with it. I just don't want to look at it. Oh, Lisa, I love how happy that just made you. It's an amazing first experience. Yeah, I don't know if that like when that will be, because I feel like I don't go to things where I introduce like with my whole name, like my first and last name anymore. Now that I like don't work in corporate. That would have been a thing, like having to change my name at work. That would have been a whole thing. Oh my God, Crystal. I saw the first Star Wars movie in theaters at 6 years old. I don't know how they thought I would be okay with 6 years old, but I loved it. That's amazing. Yeah, I've seen like part of one of them, but that's about the extent of my Star Wars experience. I mean, I know who like the characters are, the main characters, and I know the main plot twist. Like Pitch Perfect ruined that for me, guys. Like it's fine. But I don't really have a desire to watch them all, truthfully, but I've heard that the Star Wars world at Disney is really awesome. And so I just need to like do it so that I can go experience that. And then I can get Sam back to Disney. How happy was Charlie when you got back home? Did she give you attitude? So she doesn't usually give attitude. And she had friends come see her while we were gone, right? She wasn't totally alone. She doesn't give attitude. She just is a needy like Velcro kitty, does not leave my side, wants me to pet her all the time, like just wants all the attention when we've been gone for any period of time. Even if we're gone for like a weekend, we come home and she's a Velcro kitty. So yeah, she was obviously very happy to have us home. And so it's I mean, I missed her. The next 2 trips that we go on that are long, we actually have family coming to stay at our apartment while we're gone. So she will have more like love and attention and not be alone for quite as long. Obviously we didn't have a lot of people that were here in New York that weren't at the wedding. So our options were limited, but our next 2 trips, we have family coming to stay here. Do you not typically like science fiction or space movies? Yeah, not really. Like it's not my go-to genre. I don't even usually typically like fantasy, like with the exception of Harry Potter. Like I'm not usually a fantasy person either. So it's just not, I don't think it's really something I'm all that excited about. And then I also understand like watching like 4, 5, 6, they came out so long ago that it's hard to watch them when like movies are so much different now. I also don't really like action movies. So like the pieces of this movies that are like fighting, like I'm not here for that either. So I don't think they'll be my favorite, but I will watch them. Oh, you've never seen Star Wars or Harry Potter. Harry Potter is different to me because it was like the timing of my childhood. Like The movies came out basically when I was the exact same age as every one of the main characters. Like I was 11 when that first movie came out, and then they got a little bit separated towards the end. And so I think I was like 20 when the last movie came out. But for the most part, I really aligned with the ages of them. And I mean, I read the books when I was slightly younger than the characters, but I always like really just vibed with the characters. And that was kind of one of the reasons I think that I just always really loved Harry Potter. Um, I love magic. I think magic and fantasy maybe are like different to me. Have you been to Harry Potter World in Florida? Yeah, total. I've been a few times, and I went most recently in January for my bachelorette party, which was amazing. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm thinking, Amanda. That 4, 5, and 6 are hard to watch with no nostalgia because they're such old movies. But that I also have to watch them, like in order to understand. Have I watched The Magicians? No, actually, I haven't even heard of that. I know some people are like, it's, and maybe I am just too young, but it feels like other people my age really love Star Wars. Like, even though they were younger when those first movies came out, but like Sam really likes them. That's a really good idea. Just watch a YouTube video that you can just watch the newer stuff. That's a really good idea. To taking it back to goals, great question, Sydney. Tips for planning when you don't know what the next month holds. I'm due April 30th and start maternity leave April 1st. And so you have unlimited free times for 4 weeks, or you'll be having a baby. So in this scenario, I would plan like 1 week, if not like less at a time, right? Maybe you have an option, like a list of options of things that you would like to do. Maybe you have like a have to do, right? Things you have to do. I'm assuming at this point, you've probably already done most of the have to do's before the baby comes. And then it's like, what are the things I would like to do in the next 4 weeks? If for whatever reason you don't go into labor until April 30th. So then each day or each week or every couple days, pick from that list. These are the things that I'm going to do in the next day or in the next couple of days or week. And then you can readjust that if something changes. Maybe you go into labor early, maybe you get put on bed rest, like who knows what could happen in the next month. So just like, you don't worry about planning for the whole month, plan it in much shorter spurts for that scenario. I'm very excited about the new Fantastic Beasts. Yeah, we got a Fandango gift card for Christmas, not this year, but the year before that we still haven't used. That I'm very excited to use to go see the new Fantastic Beasts. Yes. Did I hear you mention that your birthday is in 2 days? We have the same birthday. Yes, it's the 25th is my birthday. I am very much an Aries, very much a stubborn. Yes, I very much identify as such. Much to my husband's dismay. Hi, Holly. Hello, fellow newlywed over there. What's it like after a month? I still get weird. My family has also still been like when they text me, they say things like Mrs. Strum. Like my dad texted me the other day and was like, "Good morning, Mrs. Strum," and then like asked me a random question that had zero to do with the wedding. But like just saying it is fun. Amy, you mentioned that you don't have a running to-do list. What do you do when you have a lot of stuff to do? Do you just stick everything in a Google Cal several months out? So I guess when it depends on you. Like, I don't ever feel like I have a lot of stuff that aren't short things. Because if they're short tasks, I'll make a to-do list that's like for today or for the next couple days or for this weekend. So if that kind of running to-do list, like for a short period of time, I will have it. But then once I'm done with it, I throw it away and I'm moving on. I don't have a running to-do list for all time. If it's something that it needs to happen several months out, it's usually related to my goals. If it's not a to-do list item, then it's like a thing I would like to do in a couple of months, not something I have to do. And then I will put it on my goals list, like my goal idea list, if it's something like that. that's where I will add it. So I guess I have a running list in that scenario of like my goal idea list that I always have going, but I don't consider that a to-do list because that's an option. Like that's something that I could go visit that in a month and be like, no, I don't actually want to do that. So I'm going to cross that off. I hope that answers your question. Do you have any insight in determining if a planner is or is not working for you? I switched to a daily and I'm just not sure. For me, it's working for you if I'm getting the things done and I'm going to places. Like if I am following through on what is on my planner, the planner is working for me. That's how I interpret if the planner is working for me. The other way I look at it is if I'm actually using it. Like if I'm using my planner and checking in with it, it's working for me. Nicole, have you, I've been recently rereading David Allen's Getting Things Done. I have not read that book or therefore obviously tried implementing any of it. What's your plan for changing your name? I got married last year and still haven't changed it. So I made I don't know if it's a mistake, but I booked our honeymoon flights in my maiden name. And so I cannot change it until after we get home from Thailand. So it is going to be a Q3 or Q4 goal for me. And at that point, I will research and figure out what to do about it. All right. I can't believe 5 minutes left. Any other last minute questions? Anything else on your mind? I feel like we talked a lot about to-do lists, some about Star Wars, all over the place. All right. If you have any last minute questions, you can go ahead and pop them in the chat, but I will go ahead and ask you my last question, which is what is one thing that you will do this week to make progress on your goals? It doesn't have to be huge. And maybe the one thing is just finalizing your Q2 and or your April goals, right? If you're part of the Patreon community, maybe it's watching the replay of the session. Maybe it's joining the Patreon community to watch the replay of the session. But what is the one thing that you will do this week to make progress on your goals? It doesn't have to be huge. But how are you going to move the needle even a little bit this week? Let us know in the chat if you're here live. And if you're watching the replay, let us know in the comments. If you're watching the replay and you've made it this far, I appreciate you so much. Thank you for doing that. And let us know in the chat or in the comments. Making a decision on the car. Lisa, so excited for you. Joanna, catch up on the goal setting session. I know, silly time change. Resting and relaxing so this baby sticks. Whoever said it, I love it. All the baby dust on you, Nicole. Cleaning out your sock drawer. Small progress is still progress. I love that. Set up your April goals and start saying no and asking for help mindsets. I love that. So helpful. Starting a spreadsheet to start brain dumping your moving mass. That sounds like a great plan, MJ. You can travel with your passport with your maiden name. Angie, my very short research told me that I could not do that without also traveling with my marriage license, which I did not want to do. But I don't know. We'll see. I'll think about it. I don't know. That makes me nervous. 1 to 2 sessions of yoga. I love that. Finish your wedding thank you notes. Holly, it's only been a month. You're making the rest of us look bad. A month out. That's amazing. Go for a walk is a way to take a break from work. I love that. Review your routines with the tips from last night's Q&A. Yes, Jessica. I love that. Posting on your business Instagram. Hi, Lisa. Awesome. Your reels. You've been killing it. I see you over there. Marathon pack for Disney tomorrow. Oh, that's so exciting. I hope you have so much fun. Reworking your morning routine so it works for the season. Sending you all the good vibes, Amy. It was a small wedding. Okay, Holly, I guess you're making me feel a little bit better. We did order thank you notes and they are out for delivery. And so hopefully we'll get started on them soon. My goal is just to finish them by the end of the quarter, which you'll hear more about in my quarterly goals video. All right, that is it for today. If you wouldn't mind giving this video a thumbs up before you head out, I would greatly, greatly appreciate that. Thank you for hanging out with me today. And if you're new here, click that subscribe button. I upload new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday focused on helping you achieve your goals. Thanks for watching. Oh my goodness. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day.